Next, Democratic presidential candidate Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is live on The View to talk about joining this weekend's protests in Puerto Rico and why she says there was a clear bias against her at the last debate.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard surprised a lot of people and made some unlikely fans for her strong performance at the first round of Democratic debates. And here to tell us how she's going to handle round two, please welcome the first female combat veteran to run for president, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah. Aloha. So, we were talking a little bit today about the situation down in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And you traveled there and to stand in solidarity with the protesters who are calling the governor on him to resign. So tell us what you saw and what you heard.
It was incredible. The energy, you can see it in some of the video and some of the pictures, but it's unlike any other protest I've ever seen, where you have thousands of people coming together, people who are elderly walking with canes, little kids, families, students, people of all ages, walks of life, singing, playing music, dancing, and really standing with a unified voice. Yes, calling on the governor to resign, but really what's driving this is more than these leaked chats. It's really this long-standing corruption that people there have been suffering under, and that really came to light in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. So with a lot of the folks that I talked to, they said this is about life and death. Seeing their loved ones struggle and suffer because they couldn't get clean water after the hurricane for months. They couldn't get electricity. So this is a breaking point, and I don't think they're going to back down until he resigns, which is the right thing.
Well, do you think it's odd that we're seeing this in little tiny places, this idea that the rule of law it seems to be eroding?
Yeah, that's the danger. And I was asking some of the folks there, well, what happens if he doesn't? And that's one of their fears, is if he doesn't resign, then it shows there's no accountability. You can get away with not just saying really, really offensive things and making threats against women and other government officials, but you can get away with stealing taxpayer dollars, lining your own pockets with dollars that were meant to help people in their greatest time of need.
Yes, Medicaid money, education money.
Sounds familiar.
Across the board.
Well, Congresswoman, you made a huge impact in the first debate, and I was actually one of the people tweeting how impressed I was with your performance. And it kind of surprised me, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. We just disagree on a lot of things. But over the 4th of July, my husband read me your campaign statement, and you said on the 4th of July, let's take patriotism back. I love our freedom. I love the freedom of our Creator, the freedom that is enshrined in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, the freedom we the freedom we protect. And then you go on to say basically every single thing I myself believe in. Oh, good, it's right here right now. So you're saying something that's really resonating with a lot of conservatives as well. And I just want to know, this pro-America, pro-God, pro-gun message, do you think it's getting so much attention because it is different than a lot of people in the rest of the Democratic field?
It really is centered on our freedoms, who we are as Americans. And so when I wrote that email and sent it out about reclaiming our patriotism, it really was a message of a reminder to all of us in this country at a time when we are becoming increasingly divided, where identity politics are being used to kind of tear people apart for political interests, rather than remembering and recognizing what unites us, the freedoms and principles that are enshrined in our Constitution that we continue to strive to uphold as we work towards this more perfect union, recognizing, yes, we're going to have some differences. When I was deployed with people from different political parties, different religions, races, ethnicities, but we stood together, working as one, focused on that singular mission that we have as service members of serving our country and protecting the American people. And it is those ideals that are at the foundation of who we are as Americans that I think we can and we should all agree on, and that can be the starting point for us to begin to rebuild these bridges and say, you and I may disagree on some things, but I think that our love for our country and our love for each other and for our future is the most important foundation for us to be able to unite as a country. This is why I'm running for president, because our current president is doing the exact opposite of that, tearing us apart.
I saw you on the Bill Maher show. You were very good on that show.
Thank you.
And you were kind of funny, too. Everybody's funny on that show, right? But, you know,
He pushes it out of you.
Yeah. But it's interesting because some prominent figures on the right, extreme right, are praising you. They like you. David Duke, the Klans guy, he likes you.
He also likes Ilhan Omar, by the way.
Does he?
Yeah.
So you've disavowed him.
Of course.
Of course.
And everything that he stands for.
Of course. Why does he like you?
Look, I think that, first of all, we shouldn't give David Duke any oxygen at all.
Singular. Thank God there's only one of them.
That's right. I think that what I've seen and what I've heard as we've been going through this campaign, both in big cities and in small towns, is we've got Democrats, Republicans, and independents, people from across the political spectrum coming together, coming to our town halls, coming to our events.
Yeah.
Saying we can, as we just said, we can disagree on a number of issues, but this issue of the cost of war and the experience that I bring to this most important responsibility that the president has as commander-in-chief, and ending these wasteful regime change wars.
Well, they see you as an isolationist. That may be one of the reasons.
There's two different things here. And I think ending regime change wars is often, unfortunately, mistaken as being an isolationist. But this speaks to the problem, I think, with the mindset that some folks have, saying, well, if we're not bombing other countries, or if we're not levying crippling economic sanctions, then we must be turning our back on the world. When what I'm saying is we have to end these wasteful wars that are costing us as taxpayers so much money, that are coming out of our schools, out of our hospitals, out of our communities, and instead invest here at home and be leaders in the world and be a force for good.
Yes.
Build relationships on cooperation rather than running around with a stick saying,
yeah, I understand that, but they also say that they support you because they say that you support extreme vetting of Syrian refugees, and also that you criticized Obama for not saying radical Islamic terrorism.
Well, I don't want to talk about what they're saying.
This is what they say about you,
I get it.
And why they say, and Coulter says, oh, goody for Tulsi.
Look, I will never apologize for making it my priority to keep the American people safe. That's the bottom line. And so if we look at the policies that we have, that Congress is considering, the job that the president has as commander-in-chief, this has to be at the forefront of the decisions that are made. And the problem with our foreign policy for so long has been, this has been lost. And this is how we see, for example, with the Iraq War, the decision to go to war that I served in, a war that we lost thousands of my brothers and sisters in uniform.
Right, big mistake.
That decision was not made in the best interest of the American people. And frankly, it wasn't made in the best interest of
anybody.
The Iraqis. Exactly.
I mean, nobody.
Exactly.
Nobody. That's true.
The president hasn't backed down on his attacks on the 4 freshman congresswomen. This weekend he tweeted this: I don't believe the 4 congresswomen are capable of loving our country. Do you think the president is inciting violence against these women?
The president is inciting racism and violence in our country as a whole. This is what's so dangerous about what he's doing, is he's using his platform to incite this racism and bigotry when really he's just doing it for his own political gain. And so when President Trump says, he's saying love it or leave it, right? What he's really saying is love me or leave. He's making it about himself, saying that if you disagree with Trump, you disagree with his views, then you should leave. Then you don't belong here. And I think that's really what's so dangerous, is he is seeing himself as America rather than recognizing the fundamental values of our country are based on our freedom of speech to agree or to disagree.
He says that's the patriotic move, is to say, get him out. That's
well, and yet you're still here. We are going to be back with more from Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Let me come back.
This week, fire up the political view, because Beto O'Rourke is the next presidential hopeful to face the women.
Mr. O'Rourke, you've been a hot topic on the show. You said you, quote, sometimes help raise your kids. Do you think you can get away with more because you're a man?
Plus, look who's hitting the table. David Spade, Fred Savage, and Titus Burgess.
Oh, it's so good.
This week on The View on ABC. Tomorrow, Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke is live on The View with his plan to reignite a campaign that went from red hot to not. Plus, his wife Amy Hoover Sanders joins him for their first national interview together. And the sexy scene stealer from Girls Trip, Kofi Siriboe, sharing why he's still single and taking his time to find love.
Hey, we are back with Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Megan.
Yeah, so Congresswoman, the lineup for the next Democratic debate was just announced, and this time you're going to be on stage with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You called her attack on Biden a political ploy. I pressed her on this when she was on the show a few weeks ago. I want to know, do you expect more confrontations this time around? And will you call it for what it is like you did last time?
I will continue to call it for what it is. I think that voters across this country deserve to see the contrasting positions that we have amongst our candidates in the Democratic primary. But, you know, attacks just for the sake, personal attacks just for the sake of trying to push yourself forward in the campaign, I think are underhanded.
What you think, Kamala did?
I do. I mean, really, when it came out, her position was the same as what Biden is saying his position is. But the thing that I'm looking forward to doing at the debates, and it's an important platform to have this opportunity in front of millions of people, is really to talk about some of the things we discussed today about the most important responsibility the president has as commander-in-chief, and the experience that I bring, both as a soldier for over 16 years, deploying twice to the Middle East, serving in Congress almost 7 years on foreign affairs, armed services, homeland security committees. I have more experience in this area that prepare me to do that job of commander-in-chief on day one than the vast majority of candidates combined. And this worries me at a deeply personal level, because as a soldier, we've seen the consequence of having a president who has no experience in foreign policy, doesn't know what the consequences of the decisions that he or she will be making.
Well, talking about that, you weren't a participant in the debate the night that every Democrat on stage raised their hands for giving all undocumented immigrants health care. Do you support that?
I think it's the wrong question to ask.
What is the right question?
The right question to ask is how we change our immigration policy so that we don't have millions of people who are living in the shadows who are undocumented. We have to make it so that, A, there is a path to legal residency or citizenship for those who are currently here so they can come out from the shadows. They're not dealing with this uncertainty that they have now, and that we actually reform this broken immigration system that really has not yet been reformed for purely political reasons. Make it so that there is an easier avenue for those who want to visit here or
could one say that
residency.
These undocumented immigrants are getting health care by going to emergency rooms anyway?
And that's driving up the cost of care.
So that's the thing that needs to be corrected.
It does need to be corrected, but again, I think it's important for us to stop reacting to the crisis of the moment, and we have to deal with these deeper-seated issues, otherwise they will never, ever be solved.
Very quickly, do you support decriminalizing border crossings?
That's something that I'm looking at. Now, I want to just make a brief comment on that, because
20 seconds.
Decriminalizing could lead to open borders. Okay. We need safe, secure borders in this country.
Thank you for your service.
We need to
only
reform
combat
our laws.
veteran running for president.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tulsi Gabbard. We will be right back.